Hello and welcome. I am the Restless Kaiser and we are modelling for advantage. So, we're going to have a look at another tanks expansion, this time the Panzer IV Long for tanks in the desert. So this is another unboxing as part of our series looking to move to World War II desert theatre. Panzer IV began the war as a close support vehicle armed with a 75mm L24 cannon, but over the course of the war, the fact that it was a little bit roomier inside and able to take a bigger engine and a bigger turret, it eventually replaced Panzer III as the main battle tank for the German army until Panther came along. So again, the cover art, it's nice. You've got a nice painted model in its setting. Let's have a look then. Panzer IV was the most widely manufactured German tank of World War II. During the North Africa campaign, it was armed with either a short 7.5cm gun that was capable of lobbing a shell over friendly troops, or the long 7.5cm gun that could easily penetrate the heaviest Allied tank. This pack contains an unassembled Panzer IV tank, one Panzer IV short tank card, one Panzer IV long tank card, a hero card, 2 crew cards and 2 upgrade cards. So far, pretty much the same as you might expect. So this sprue, this kit, can build more than one version of the tank. You can see on the instructions here are very clear about how you do that. It's fundamentally the same, except there are 2 different turrets. Clearly, this is the short gun and this is the long gun. It's pretty obvious, and it really is very, very short. You can see why this has quite a low armor penetration capability in most games that you're going to find. So what does the sprue tell us then? Well, the sprue, following the pattern of most of the Battlefront miniatures in plastic these days, we've got the running gear all as a single piece, with the upper and lower deck separated, some various plates, and the guns and cupolas that are available to us. We have an open and closed cupola, and a few extra little bits of stowage here and there. As for the guns themselves then, we actually have 3. We have the short 75 here, which you can recognise because it has this strange kind of D-shaped mount that it rests upon, that I'm not quite sure what role that fulfilled. I'd be quite interested in the comments to hear about that. And then we have 2 75mm guns over here. If you're a bit of a rivet head and you want to know the difference of these 2 guns, the type that was used in the desert, I believe, is this one with the single hole in the muzzle brake, and the one with the 2 holes, I think, predominantly on the eastern front. But don't rely 100% on me on that. I'm not that much of a rivet head. I find these things interesting, but I'm often get a bit muddled with the details. Again, we have an open and closed commander's cupola and a rear stowage bin, all the things that you would expect to see. So that was the sprue then. What about the cards? Because the cards really are what makes this an upgrade pack, an expansion, rather than just a single model. The Panzer IV short and the Panzer IV long, both coming out with an initiative of 5, but the Panzer IV short has only got 3 firepower, 1 armour and 4 hit points in both cases. They both have the Blitzkrieg rule, which is common to all of the German units. But the Panzer III, despite having a lower firepower, has the artillery rule. And this is interesting because essentially what the artillery rule says is you can fire indirectly. But because tanks has got some quite specific nailed down scenery rules and terrain, it has quite a narrow stipulation, which is when this tank shoots, it may shoot at a target blocked by other tanks. So it can't shoot over buildings and it can't shoot over forests, but it can shoot over other tanks. Presumably that's to reflect the relatively low angles that it was able to achieve, even though it's a howitzer. It's not a field gun with a 45-degree angle of fire or whatever. So it can fire over intervening tanks, which is interesting, particularly if you're playing with larger forces. It's easy for your own tanks to get in the way of one another. So this is a vehicle that you can comfortably stick behind others, knowing its effectiveness will not be impaired. These tanks are quite cheap compared to a lot of the stuff that we've looked at in Tanks Modern, but they've also got quite low firepower and low hit points. It'll be interesting to see how that all fits together. So, let's have a look at the cards then. Our hero card. Our hero card is Tony Kruszinski. He has 4 initiative in the movement phase, +4, but loses 2 initiative in the shooting phase, and may reroll 1 defense dice. He's a driver for 6 points. I don't mind giving up initiative in the shooting phase, to be honest, and for 6 points, re-rolling 1 defense dice and having a huge initiative advantage. That might be quite useful for only 6 points. we have another unique German card, which is Clever Hans. Clever Hans makes a repair check on a 3+ rather than on a 4+. 2-point upgrade, and it's a doctrine, so it's fairly easy to accommodate in the crew. For 3 points, we have a smoke round. When shooting, you can discard this ammo type, and the target tank gains -3 firepower, but counts as being in cover until the end of the phase. It doesn't say you specifically have to fire it at a friend or an enemy, which is interesting, because you might want to provide cover to one of your tanks that's on its last legs, but generally I think you'd fire this at your opponent to reduce his firepower. We have another universal, the Deadeye Gunner. This tank may upgrade an uncancelled hit to a critical hit. 3 points. Not bad. Not bad at all. And for 2 points, Artillery Observer. This is a radio function. Once per turn, a stationary tank with the artillery keyword, which in this case is the Panzer IV short, may draw its line of sight from this tank instead of itself shooting. So in those circumstances, with this card being used, the Panzer IV short could fire irrespective of intervening terrain, as long as it could draw a line of sight from this artillery observer. So those were the cards. Let's have a look at some stills and of course the fully assembled model. If you do decide to buy this kit or any of the other models or whatever featured, or just buying some minis in general, do consider following our affiliate link to Wayland Games. It gives us a little bit of kickback and helps us to keep funding projects for the channel. Thank you for watching.